Welcome back to the Real Estate Morning Show. It's been a little while and we're getting ready to kick off season 3.
Yeah.
We've missed being here in front of the camera talking to you guys. We really enjoyed it in the past. But as we get busy, sometimes we've kind of had to put it at the back burner. But it's that time of year where we're ready to kind of kick it off again.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if we can keep it going throughout the year this year as opposed to taking a couple of breaks. The market's the market, right? Sometimes we got to be out there with our clients and it is what it is. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so on the shows where we talk about everything that's going on in the real estate world, we want to give you some insight and tips to do with your house and stuff like that as well. But really we just want to share some of our experiences, what that could mean to you and what that means to our clients, and share some of those conversations because maybe they apply to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And can help you with planning in your world as well. So, to jump right in, I want to do a little housekeeping and talk about how we finished off 2019.
Yeah.
We had made predictions where we thought 2019 was going to end up. Cease had predicted, where do I have her here? She had predicted 89,000. You had predicted 83,000.
Yeah.
And I think I was there at 86. We couldn't find my prediction for some reason. I think I just said it on the show.
We wrote down mine and Cease's, and we didn't track yours
Yeah.
apparently. So.
And so anyways, overall, 2019 was up 12.6% over 2018, and they finished at 87,825.
Yeah.
So we were kind of in the realm there. It outperformed what the Toronto Real Estate Board was saying. And I mean, it might have been Cease that was closest. I'd like to think that I had said something closer. But I mean, looking at that 87,825, really her 89,000 prediction was the closest.
I think she was probably the closest. We got to give her credit. I
Yeah.
mean, she's been doing this the longest.
We'll give the veteran the win.
We'll give her the bone this time around, but this year we'll track that.
Yeah, exactly. And so during that time, also new listings had declined by 2.4%. Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing that we want to talk about today on the show. Is just what's going on in the market right now, what we think is going to happen in 2020, and where we're coming up with this, like where we're seeing the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And one of those things is the decline in inventory. New listings are down.
Significantly down,
And just in terms of the competition that we're seeing, because more buyers have returned to the market as well. So that market's just really tight.
And that has a lot to do with what's going on in the world of lending as well, right? The stress test has kind of leveled off. People are more comfortable with it. People have had time to save up what they need to do or pay off debt and make those shifts. And then also rates have been holding at the same rate now for almost a year, I think it is, with no indication that those rates are going to go back up at any time soon. In fact, potentially the opposite, where we'll see what happens with the overall economy for that one. So buyers are in a great position right now in some aspects, right? They know what they need to do. They can make their decisions. They can save, and up until now, they've had options.
Yeah.
So the market's been getting some momentum and getting some steam because they've had choices and they've had the ability to go out and go, okay, you know what? Maybe I can't spend 9, maybe it's 7, but at least I can pick from these 3 or 4 houses at 7, and I'm not competing. And now we've seen a total swing in that, which is an indicator of a
what's going to come.
Yeah.
And so really, we saw in 2019, we saw that change happen around midway through the year. The first half of the year was pretty stagnant. Not as much was happening, specifically talking New York region. Yeah. Toronto's been on a pretty steady track for a little while now.
Upward trajectory for the last year.
Yeah.
It's I mean, we'll talk about this in a second, but it's gotten crazy, and you know, there's a lot of indicators that it's going back to that similar 2016, 2017 market, which is great.
Or at least the years leading up to that, where we saw big increases in price, and we saw the multiple offers happening all the time, and just the general competition.
Yeah, and the lack of inventory, right? Which is, I know we're going to talk about that. That's a huge factor there. So
and so before we jump into our experiences so far this month with what's been going on with our clients, in terms of the outlook, Jason Mercer, who's the Toronto Real Estate Board's chief marketing analyst, he says to expect further acceleration in price growth for 2020 if there's no relief on the supply front. And so that's one of the things that obviously has been driving prices, is now we're getting to a spot where as more buyers have returned, we're seeing multiple offers because more buyers are showing up for the few properties that are out there. Yeah. And we're running into that competition. Yeah,
we have more buyers in especially particular price points. It's definitely trending on the entry level up to 800-900 price point, more so right now than over that million. Although we're still seeing it in those detached home prices. But I think as time goes on and that inventory and supply stays low, and I mean it's really low right now, especially Aurora Newmarket. It's trending on the low side. Yeah. that demand is going to continue to build, and the more that we build that demand and the less supply, the economics of it, obviously that's where the prices just start to increase and increase and increase, and that growth is going to show back up. So those higher priced homes, as that trend continues, that will roll over into that higher price market, and then they'll start to follow in the same pattern.
Yeah, and so what I was looking at when I was trying to compare some of the numbers to be able to justify what we're seeing and feeling in the market, in the 905 in particular, the townhome segment outpaced the growth of the detached segment. The townhome segment was around 11.1%, and then the detached was 7.4 or something like that in terms of growth. So what's happened there is because detached were down a lot to begin with, not just in general.
7.4 is still great.
Yeah, it's great growth.
If that was the only news we had, that would still be great news.
Yeah.
It's just that there's more.
Exactly. Yeah. And so those townhomes have caught up to that gap a little bit, and that's why we're predicting that we're going to see a big push in that detached market segment this year, because the gap between the stuff below it has gotten closer than it's been in a while.
And longer than I can recall. I mean, realistically, it's been a long time since the jump from a town to a detached has been such a small window.
Exactly. And it would have been before the last push in prices that we saw.
Yeah, which was, I don't even know, 2008.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, that being said, that's not going to last long. That window is a short window.
Yeah, it accelerates quickly.
It accelerates very, very quickly, and then that growth, it occurs in each month or each couple months that it occurs, it goes faster and faster, and the gap gets bigger and bigger, right? As that demand continues and the market heats up and people get into that, everyone gets into that mindset of the market is good, let's make a move or let's buy, and that's what pushes that extra growth, right?
And so you have a story from last week. Why don't you share the first one in terms of what you guys ran into?
So last week I was working with some first-time home buyers, and we were focused more downtown in the GTA area, and they have a good budget. It wasn't anything crazy. It was entry level for the GTA certainly, but they could have been able to get a semi-detached or potentially a bungalow, and that's what we were starting with. So we looked at some properties, and we found a semi that we really liked. That was in what I would call moderate condition. It had some issues. It had some electrical challenges, some plumbing challenges, and it wasn't fully updated. Parquet flooring and basement wasn't finished, things of that nature. So the house needed some money.
And what was it priced at?
It was listed at $749. With a rough, my analysis was it was probably worth somewhere between $800 and $820, and I was allowing for some growth because the previous month there'd been a sale of a better home on the same street for $812, right? So we had already adjusted to allow for that.
We know that this is an inferior home to the one that sold for $812.
Yes.
And the market's doing well. Probably going to sell, $820, maybe a little bit more potentially, but in that range.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be a reasonable, fair range to pay for that
for
house.
A month's difference.
For a month's difference.
And now inferior house.
Yeah. And so, it had an offer date. They were holding back, and offer days come up, and, it goes from one offer to two offers. All of a sudden there's 6 offers, and by the time we got our offer in, there was 11.
Yeah.
And, it was insane to see that happen in as quickly as it did in early January in the market we're in, where it's not that it wasn't expected, it kind of came out of nowhere from a previous month's sale at $812. The house ended up selling for $886,000.
Yeah, so. $886.
Yeah.
From the previous month where there was a superior home that sold for $812.
Yeah.
And there was 11 offers, right?
11 offers on that property, yeah.
When there's not a lot out there to choose from and buyers come flocking down and you have 11 people competing for the one house that everybody wants, that's what we see happen.
Yeah.
And now the challenge is, going forward, everybody's going to now, instead of comparing to the $812,
that's the new benchmark now, and that's the bottom line in that neighborhood. That neighborhood has never been that high. This is a new record for that neighborhood in regard to a semi-detached price. It's as far as I know, it's never, even in the crazy market,
it didn't hit that.
It wasn't that high. It hadn't grown to that level because the crazy market pushed it to that 812 benchmark, and then now this market has pushed it to
because we're talking about Toronto, where it's still been good for a while.
Because we're talking about the GTA and your central and transit and all that stuff that comes into effect downtown. So totally different environment. And what happened essentially was that one sale priced my clients out of that neighborhood automatically. And that was for a house that still needed, I'm going to say about $50,000, maybe 40, maybe 80, depends on what you want to do. But Yeah, it was very much a starter semi. We got lucky in a sense. We took a different route based on that.
Yeah, you saw the writing on the wall and you pivoted to something else.
We pivoted very quickly, to an opportunity where a home had been on the market a little bit longer, in good condition, structurally sound, no issues.
Was it maybe priced right from the get-go?
It was priced poorly over the previous market in 2018 for sure. And then the house, for lack of a better word, it was quirky. It had a weird layout. It was a very specific home for a particular family, and they used it in a way that made sense for them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It didn't have mass appeal.
It wasn't resaleable on a high level, and so buyers who would go in and want to walk in and visualize themselves and their family, especially first-time buyers living in that home, it was hard to see past what needed to be done. I was lucky that my clients had an open mind and took some guidance on that a little bit, and were willing to see what the future potential was
potentially
of the
do
home.
the work in the future to make it the one they want.
Yeah, and then they ended up buying a detached home in Toronto, a little further south, in a arguably better location for under 800. So, because they were open to the potential of the home. And the best thing about it was that it wasn't mechanical structural issues, it was aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they won in that regard, and that's not all the time, but it's a nice end to that story.
Exactly. And the thing to take away there is you have to evaluate the writing on the wall and your situation, right? Like these guys knew that new market the market that they were looking in had now changed. They weren't able to buy in that neighborhood anymore in competition, which is what was happening there. Yeah. So they reevaluated, found something else that fit.
Yeah. And they moved quickly. And that was the other reason it happened for them, was because they did pivot immediately and recognize we've got a short window to make this happen in the budget we want to be in, so let's make it happen.
I think in April, say around April, we'll revisit this. We'll do a CMA in the neighborhood and say what's changed and show you how that has escalated. Yeah. Because that's what we're predicting is going to happen right now.
Absolutely.
We could be wrong, but that's what we're seeing. And so to jump in and share my story, same thing. The only difference was we're now in new market, also a first-time home buyer. Lucky enough that we're looking at a detached, but not a great home on a busier street. Like, we're entry level into the detached. So once you get into any different bracket or any different neighborhood, the bottom end of that stuff is always going to be maybe on the main roads of the neighborhood. They're going to be a little bit more TLC required. And so we found a home like that because we're the ones that are looking there. And 6 offers on the property, sold over asking, sold firm. And this was a home that we definitely wouldn't have felt comfortable waiving our home inspection condition.
Yeah.
This is something that he easily could have got into, and it would have turned out that there would have been a lot of stuff that they would have had to do that he wasn't prepared for. There's a lot
of hidden issues in the older homes sometimes as well. And if you can't have that condition in there, even as agents, it's hard for us to advise our clients unless we're confident in the home not to have that condition, and that can cost people houses sometimes.
Exactly. Sure. And so what we need to take out of this is if we do see this return across the Toronto board as a whole, where we're seeing a lot more multiple offers and competition, that typically means the one that's getting the house doesn't have conditions in it. We have no financing condition and we have no home inspection condition. Yeah. Now it sounds daunting and it can be a little scary. There are a lot of issues if you waive both of those things without knowing what's going on with the house or your financing, where you could get into a lot of trouble. But that being said, if you're guided the right way and you're protecting yourself along the way, we sold a lot of homes all through 2012 up to 2017 where to get the home sold for our buyers, we didn't have those conditions in there. We had to buy firm on 90% of those deals because there was competition on them.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it's going to be and what we're going back to, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Having the right guidance is key, because there are things you can do in advance of the offers. One of the offer dates are always a challenge because everyone shows up at the same time, but they're also a bit of a blessing because you have a window of time to do your due diligence and you have the options. If you're not comfortable buying a house with a home inspection, you have the option to do a pre-home inspection before you put in an offer. Yeah. Now, it could cost you $400 or $500 depending
on a house that you
might not win the multiples on, but $400 or $500 for peace of mind if you are going to buy that house. To a lot of people that's worth it. And same with lending, right? Dealing with great lenders, having everything lined up, knowing exactly what you need to do in advance is going to protect you and make you comfortable in what you can and can't do. And we can have those conversations with those people for you as well. Right?
Yeah. And so to jump in just in talking about those home inspections on when you do that, I always advise somebody, I'm like, look, if we're not in a position where I can say you're competitive to get this house, then I don't necessarily recommend doing that home inspection on this one, or just acknowledge, hey, this isn't going to be the one for us, because one, we want to do the home inspection so that we're protected if we're going to be buying the house. But at the same point, if I don't think that you're going to be able to get it, I want to save you the $500 because we could do this 5 times.
Right.
Like I remember losing
up.
4 houses before people getting them when we were in the heat of competitive
Oh my
market.
gosh, yeah. I remember going through
Easy.
forever with clients, and it was it was hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it was stressful and there was cost related to it. And I think you're right. And in regard to not being competitive, you're referring to their budget generally.
Their budget,
when you say
exactly.
that they might not be able to go to where we think the house is going to go in order
competition.
to sell.
Yeah.
And again, that's advice that we can give you and take a look and say, hey, here's what's going on. This is the trend in the market. This is what we're seeing growth from sale to sale. And give a guide. We can never tell you what it's going to sell for. I wish, wouldn't that be great? Crystal balls. You're like, it's going to be $873.
Yeah. So,
but yeah.
In talking about that, when people ask us that question, what do you think it's going to sell for, and that, in those competitive markets, we usually give you a couple of prices that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
We'll talk about where we think value is. We'll do a CMA for the neighborhood, compare it to all the comparables that have sold, and say, if no other competition, this home is probably worth X amount of dollars. Now, if we get into competition and there's 10 other offers or X amount of offers, see, that's one of the things why we can't give you how much we think it's going to take to get the house ahead of time, because we don't know how many we're competing against.
Yeah.
Because competing against 3 is very different than competing against 7 or more.
Yeah, and even going back to those 11 offers, we had multiple conversations throughout the day. It's like, okay, there's 3 offers. Then we talked about what we do, and then there's 6 offers. Like, okay, we got to make a move, and then there's 8 offers, and you're going, this is getting a little crazy. We're kind of getting in that realm where we're probably not going to get this house. And by the time it got to 11, we were like, well, you never know.
Yeah.
We'll put our best foot forward and we'll give it our best shot, but we're prepared that we're not getting this house at that point, right?
Exactly.
Because the demand was too much for what we were comfortable going in with. And it's not that they couldn't have done it.
No.
It's just it wasn't the right decision for them to make. And
Exactly.
it wasn't the right home for them to spend that money on. So.
Yeah, so jumping back in, one of the other prices that we'll give you is, while we're in the multiple offer scenario with 11 offers, we'll say that this is what we think it's going to take to win the house.
Right, yeah.
The top price that we're going to give you is, this is the price that we really just don't want you to pay.
Well, or you shouldn't.
You shouldn't
really
pay.
shouldn't go to that number.
Because when we get to that number, we're now worried about bank appraisals.
Right.
And if it doesn't appraise at the value that you paid for it, you're responsible for the deficiency.
Yeah.
So say you pay $880 for the house, bank says it's only worth $850. You got to come up with that $30,000 somehow when you're already stretched as much as it is.
Out, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's just with the cash that you had on hand because you put it all into your down payment and closing costs, maybe your reno stuff.
Yeah.
It always plays a factor, and so we will tell you what we think that number is, because one of the biggest concerns with, well, not always the biggest, but one of the concerns with waiving a financing condition is that you don't have a condition in there for your appraisal.
Yeah.
And if for any reason, especially in an upswinging market, if the bank says that it doesn't appraise, you could be in a sticky spot.
Absolutely, yeah. And then there's always the concern that if you go in firm, and then because that's the real factor, that if you're going in with a firm offer, which you have to do to get the house, then you overpay for the house. And then there's also the other argument of insurance. If you don't have 20% down in your CMHC mortgage, you have to get approval from the banks and from the insurance in order to say that they approve what you paid for the home, and that it fits in with what they think the home is worth. Or else they could say, even though everything else is fine, and we agreed to give you this much money, if for any reason there's a red flag, we're not going to give you that insurance, which means you no longer qualify for A-level lending, most likely, because there's only 3 insurers within Canada. And once one says no, they're probably all going to say no, which means now you're going to get pushed potentially to a B lender and different interest rates and all that sort of stuff. So there's the other side of that as well, depending on how your mortgage is structured. So it's important to know all this information and understand how any of that works before you put an offer in on the home. Right?
And if you're going to waive any of those conditions, that you're fully aware of that and what the risks are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that along with all of our other colleagues that we're talking about and our other buyers that we're meeting with, that the market's just getting really tight. We're going to see potentially a big boost in that detached market. I think those numbers that we saw last year of the 11% in the townhome and 7% in the detached are going to flip. We're going to see a little bit less growth in the townhome market and the semi market because they've already come up so much. They've had their big push while the detached sat around, and now it's time for the detached to make a push. So the important thing here is for anybody in the townhome market or the semi market that's been thinking about making that move to the detached, this might be your best time to do it. It'll be the time most likely where the gap between townhomes and detached is at its smallest for the next little bit.
For the next couple of months, I think by the time we get into the spring market, that window's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Personally, so do you have a guesstimate for we know the sales from this last year? What do you think this year's sales numbers are going to look like?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
What's your prediction?
So what did we finish at? 87.
87 in 2019. Yeah.
Maybe we match the same boost. I mean, that was almost 10,000.
Yeah.
It was 9,000 in growth.
Yeah.
9 and a bit. So I don't know. Maybe if we could even just do that again, and then because I feel like there's enough people that want to move in the city or in the GTA in general, and we have enough people here. We have enough population to justify it that we could easily pop back into the mid to high 90s pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Without looking at my report. See, we were lucky last time. We looked at all the numbers.
We did
when we made
research.
the predictions.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing you under the bus right now, but it's a more fun way to do it.
Exactly. I'd love to see like a 96,000 post again.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think that would be healthy numbers. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure 2016 topped down at 110.
Yeah,
around there.
It was
That's the number that sticks
somewhere
in
in that
my
range.
It was the high 100s.
It wasn't
range.
over
It might have been
110, but
or
it
something
was
like that.
closer to 110 than 100. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we'll hit that number again at some point. I don't know how long it's going to take to do it now that we're seeing the turnaround.
Yeah.
But let's say that we're still in the 90s, but I think I'm going to say we're over 95,000. So somewhere in there, give or take 2,000 units.
Okay, so you're saying like 95 to 97 is your
in
range.
that range. That's what I think. What about you?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people who've been waiting for the market to make this shift. So I think this is high, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Yeah. I'm going to say 101.
101, yeah. That's a big push.
Yeah, it is a big push, yeah. And I think my expectation for the year is slightly different than yours. I actually think that the towns are going to continue to grow at a strong rate because of the fact that there's still, as the market moves up, there's still that entry-level price point, and that entry-level price point is going to continue to get higher, which means more and more people are going to bump down into it.
So do you think percentage change year over year, the townhomes are going to change at a larger percentage than
No,
detached?
I don't think so, but I think it's going to be more even. I don't think that detached to grow at a more rapid rate. I expect them to grow, but I think the town, because of the demand in that price range, will continue to grow at the pace it's growing. So I would arguably say, I hope you're right in one sense, but I also think that, in my opinion, it's just my guess, I think that the detached will only be slightly above if it goes above and if it doesn't stay even.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see. And obviously, as time goes on and we get more information, maybe we'll readjust and talk about it. At the very least, we'll be sharing it with you.
Yep.
February, I want to say the 5th is when the Toronto Real Estate Board's Outlook for 2020 gets posted.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a full report then to review. So maybe for the video after that, we'll have a chance to read it, digest it, and kind of get a better idea of what they're thinking is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you got to imagine this report is already done, or it's been like they're putting.
I'm sure since they got the final stats at the end of December and early Jan, they've been working on it. Yeah, I would think so.
I got to say that the January numbers, I feel like it's got to sway that report a little bit, because my expectations for this year have already been swayed based on how the last 2-3 weeks were.
100%.
I didn't think we were going to come out the gate as quickly as we have.
No, it's been jarring a little bit, and in a great way in some instances, especially if you're selling.
Yeah,
it's great. But it's also been unexpected to an extent, and a quick adjustment we all had to make a quick adjustment to kind of go, okay, we're in another new market.
Yeah,
so now we have to navigate these new waters, right? So I would assume that they're going to look at what happened in January. And
I don't see. That's what I'm saying. I think the report's already written. I don't know if they'll adjust it. Like in their market watch, they'll definitely say, hey, wow, January was
their monthly
impressive.
report.
I'm even looking forward to seeing that and see what. I haven't pulled mid-month numbers to see what's going on.
No.
All I can say is that when I've pulled CMAs for a couple of people already this month, I specifically just looked at new listings from January to it was last week that I did this, to that current date, and of the 28 homes that were listed, I think it was 19 of them had already sold. And most of them sold over asking price, and that was in Durham. It was one little neighborhood of Durham that I was looking at. And I was like, how is this happening already? Like the turn one, it's happening in January. Two, these are all selling in what would be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was just, I wanted to get a beat on, hey, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
As opposed to just looking at the comparables, which is crazy.
We started to see the trends pick up in December. There was a little bit of traction. It wasn't what we have now, but there were indicators that it was picking up. There was things happening, and even with the coaching, the amount of deals my guys were doing, and then the amount of multiples that I was seeing them get into, I was going, okay.
In December,
In December, I was like, and even like around the holidays and stuff, not even just early December, there were some indicators going, okay, something's changing right now.
Yeah.
And then January happened and it was like, oh, it's changed. It's already happened. Okay, get on board, right?
Yeah.
So
that is our first episode back.
Yeah.
It's great to be here and talking again in front of you guys and sharing some of the stuff that we're seeing in the market and what that might mean to you. I'm really excited to be back, and they're not all going to be like this. We just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on. It's that time of year. It's January. You want to know, kind of get your plans in order. Hey, what's going to happen this year? And that's what we've spent most of our time doing with our clients so far, is just been talking to people, making plans early so that you can adjust as these things happen and you're not having to make a decision quickly. Because sometimes that happens with people where, an agent knocks on their door and says, hey, I've got a great deal for you, and they make a quick decision. It's better to have that plan in place beforehand, and then we can just adjust it as we go, and that's really what's been going on. So we wanted to make sure we got a chance to talk to everybody and say, hey, this is what's going on in the market, this is what we think is going to happen, but not every episode will be as stat or market focused.
No,
we'll talk
of
about
course,
other
we'll
things
talk about other stuff, and just make sure if you are making decisions, have a conversation with somebody who's in the world first and get a clear understanding, because there's a lot of stuff in the media, there's a lot of people talking, and some people are talking about things they don't really understand at a high level, or they read a headline.
And some people, I get this one the most, when those numbers come out every month, they conflate, or they confuse sales with average price.
Yes.
And so they're like, oh, I hear the market's going up like 25% this year. I'm like, well, I don't think it's going up that much. That would be pretty crazy. But if sales go up that much, I mean, that'd also be crazy. But that's just one of those things that they're comparing. And sometimes it's a month-over-month number. It's not like for the year.
It's not year-over-year.
Exactly.
Yeah, that happens a lot, that month-over-month to year-over-year discrepancy, for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, it is very easy to get confused about what they're saying in the news, because if it's just a headline that's coming up, it gets throw you for a loop. But anyways.
So, just talk to somebody before you make any big decisions. And find out what's going on in your
local market.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is our show for today. We look forward to making the next one, and hopefully you enjoy this one. We're going to be on our Facebook at The Real Estate Morning Show, Instagram, The Real Estate Morning Show, YouTube, of course, so we can catch you anywhere. We're going to try to get on Spotify this year for you guys in the car. I know I love listening to podcasts as well.
Yeah.
So until next time, I'm Dylan.
I'm Jen.
And we'll see you later.
We got to work on that. Yeah.